I think a lot of what we heard was about what government has done or can do. There were also some concerns about what residents and communities can do on their own, because there was some fair discussion. What if you live in a waterfront community and you're facing the problems that we've been describing? Should they anticipate that government's going to come in, or do they need to do something on their own? Who's going to incur the costs for doing whatever they have to do? So maybe we can talk about that a little bit.
Well, the government has a responsibility to protect their infrastructure, water, utilities, streets, that kind of thing. And in doing so, it may be that they'll actually protect some private property. But that wouldn't be the responsibility of government. It would be the private property owner. And as it becomes more and more of a problem, as properties flood more frequently, of course their insurance rates are going to go sky high. And I would think at that point they would make a rational judgment to protect their property in some way. And I think that's the way it's going to go. But again, the horizon is 25, 50, 75 years before that becomes an issue in certain parts of the city. I don't know. Zoe, do you have anything on
that? There's a couple ways to take this question, and one way that private property owners or communities can what can they do, and one of the things you can do is to get involved in your community's planning process that's looking at these issues, because as you lay out, as counties lay out their plan, they ultimately break their decisions that they need to take into sort of short, medium, and long-term actions. And some of those are along the lines of the categories that Jessica mentioned in terms of what they're going to protect or be able to protect and afford to protect, what areas you're going to need to preserve in terms of your natural resources, and what areas you're going to sort of in the intermediate zone, continue to inhabit and sort of accommodate, in terms of better design and accommodate for future flood or, sort of episodic flood events. But so in terms of making those decisions, it's important that you as a citizen and the community has a voice in helping the community understand sort of your interest in terms of your needs and your desires and your voice really to be part of that decision-making process, because it will be a challenge for each community. I can tell you in terms of going back to the first question about what communities have done, there really haven't been any communities that I know across the country that have made a decision definitively about this is what we're going to protect and this is what we're not going to be able to protect. That's a hard question. Those decisions are going to be made very incrementally and often, after, such a catastrophic storm event. And so, there are things you can do in terms of your, if you're interested in buying a new home, or, if you're looking to relocate, you can make yourself aware of, the sea level rise maps or hazard maps that are out there, so that you're making a good informed choice in terms of the risk of the property that you're interested in buying. If you already own a home that's in an area that's vulnerable, you need to be concerned about, what to do in the event of an emergency and, a flood event, making sure you have an evacuation route, making sure you're, keeping aware of, the weather forecasts, thinking about, if you're putting, you could elevate there are things you can do to basically, it's called hazard mitigation. There you can make some changes in the structure of your home to mitigate against future damage from a storm event. So there's all sorts of things you can do on your own property to lessen your vulnerability from an episodic storm event. If you live on the waterfront and you need to control your erosion, you want to explore the best type of shore protection practice. You want one that can protect your property, your personal property, but also one that won't harm the environment. So at the state level, we do encourage, and through state law, the use of sort of non-structural, natural approaches to control erosion. So obviously, there's things that are going to affect you on your individual property. So, you can make some decisions at home, but you can also become, more involved at the community level in terms of helping your government, make the decisions that it will need to make in terms of allocating its resources and making its, investments in terms of environmental protection, so that everybody, is part of the process.
All done? Yeah. I guess this follow-up is, how do people with different financial capacity, communities and individuals, accommodate this? It's nice if you have the money to invest into lifting up your house or putting up riprap or what have you. Are there programs or incentives? I remember hearing a conversation at one table where if people were to try to get financing and their house is in a vulnerable area, would the bank even give them money? And so what are the problems that homeowners might face, and is there anything that could be done to assure them that they'd have some out? Any thoughts on that?
So, unfortunately, flood insurance or hazard insurance that you buy for your home only takes effect after you've sustained some damage. There aren't funds that are available to preemptively mitigate against future damage. So to enhance, so to do a structural addition or structural enhancement to your property or to your structure would be, you would have to bear the cost of that. There are, hazard mitigation grant programs. So after a storm event, we use the funds in Maryland that we receive through presidential disaster declarations to mitigate against future damage, and that's where the Maryland Emergency Management Agency will buy out homes that have suffered from repetitive loss, or they will elevate homes, and it's a federal program, and there has to be a cost benefit. You have to show the benefit of the enhancement and how it's alleviating the cost, and the cost is determined based on the damage that has been that structure has withstood from storm events over its history. So there are, so it's hard to say that, where is the money to come to protect a private property, because there isn't a fund. We do have a zero interest loan program that we give money out for non-structural shore protection projects. So if you want to put in you need to protect your shoreline from erosion, there are grants that you can get through the Chesapeake Bay Trust as well as the Department of Natural Resources to help with that sort of shore protection. There's zero interest loans. But there's, and there are some other programs, that through the Department of Housing and Community Development, but it really, the cost of the impact of sea level rise and climate change to the individual property will really be borne by that individual property owner.